I wanted to talk to you just real quick because it's coming up in this next election, and I kind of wanted you to understand some differences here. So you can make up your own mind and have information that helps you as you're having feelings in your heart, um, what is true and what isn't. One of the things I've heard recently is that people are calling all people in one party fascist. And so I want you to think about that. It is half of America, half, because that's how many people voted for the person that's in charge right now. That's kind of half of America is in that party, okay? 50%, 50%, 50%. So as you're sitting in church, as you're driving down the highway, as you go to a ball game, as you go to a school event, half of those people are fascist? Can that be true? No, I don't think so. Now, that doesn't mean that some people have not been misled or deceived. Just as on the other side, I think the latest thing I've heard is that, well, they're all communists. They're all communists, right? And this brings up, especially for someone of my age, yes, I've been around a year or two. Someone my age, this whole communism thing brings up that big scare, McCarthyism and rooting out communists in this country and got to take out these communists. And true communism, yes, you don't want that. That's true. You don't want that. But again, think about it. Half of the people in this country are being labeled communists or fascists. They can't all be fascist. They can't all be communist. Are some of them fascist? I'm afraid that might be true.
Okay, so communism, fascism. Do we have some communists in this country? Yeah. Do we have some fascists? Yeah. Do we have some socialists? Yeah. Do we have democratic socialists? Yes. But as we go into this election season, just understand that there are differences between what is being said and what is real. And so I just want you to be able to understand some of these terms, what they mean, just at a very high level. I mean, there's whole books written on, socialism, communism, capitalism, all of that stuff. And remember, I talked about what do you feel in your heart? What do you feel in your heart? So we're going to go into this. It's yeah, it's a bit long, but I think it's something that you need to be you need to be armed with for this upcoming season election uh, madness.
So let's talk about communism, socialism. Socialism and communism. So just to give you a quick comparison, property ownership. Under socialism, it's owned by the public or a cooperative ownership of major industries. Personal property is allowed. In communism, it is totally collective ownership. All private and personal property is totally abolished, completely abolished. So listen to the message. Are we talking about totally abolishing collective ownership and private and personal property? Is that what we're talking about? Or are we talking about public ownership? Private property is fine, but maybe there needs to be some adjustments to ownership of major industries. And why do I say that? Well, some people may look at what's going on in the world today like the big oil companies, right? Big oil companies have made more money in this last year debacle of this war with Iran and the up and down, up and down, up and down of gas prices. They've made billions of dollars, billions. They're quite happy with the way things are going. In fact, they couldn't be happier. But some of us think, well, that's not right and that's not fair. Can we, is there any way to adjust that to make it more fair? I don't know, but we could have a discussion. Distribution of wealth, um, socialism, distribution based on individual contribution and effort to each according to their work, to each according to their work. So just equality based on individual contribution and effort. In communism, distribution is entirely 100% based on need, to each according to his needs. Now, I need to be a little careful here because if you go back and look at Acts, the book of Acts, and the original church that was with Peter and all the people that were in the upper room, they had a form of total collective ownership. Nobody owned anything. It says that specifically in Acts. Nobody felt like they owned anything, and everything belonged to everybody. And there wasn't even really a concept of personal property, it was the body's property. And distributed based on need, if somebody needed something, then they were given something. I mean, this is so be careful. I'm not trying to equate communism with a true church. I'm just trying to tell you how some people would twist this and make it sound like, oh, that's what they're doing. Just have a little discernment in your heart and listen to what's being said. Because what's the role of government? In socialism, a democratic state manages the economy and essential social services. In communism, the state eventually fades away into a totally classless, moneyless, and stateless society. Moneyless. Moneyless? Moneyless. Well, that's because everything gets distributed based on need. You don't need any money because whatever you need will be provided. But remember now, earthly politics versus kingdom politics. Okay, so stay with me. Because, yes, if you were in a perfect body of Christ, let's say you joined a church, and I'm not talking about a cult, I'm not talking about some bizarre manifestation of somebody's idea of how to get rich and have things for themselves, prosperity gospel, and all that stuff. I'm saying if a body of people got together as Christians and said, we are going to take care of the people in this body, just the people in this body. Say we have 100 members in our church. Those 100 members don't own anything, and all of what they have is distributed as needed throughout the congregation based on need. That would be wonderful. That would be Pollyanna. But it's not going to happen in today's society. So if you see, communism, it is for someone's benefit. Remember, it is trying to set up a worldly structure that will benefit a few. And then transition method to socialism is generally a graceful, gradual, peaceful change through democratic processes and reform. And communism is generally a violent revolution. Okay? So remember property rights. Socialists allow individuals to own homes, clothes, small businesses, but the state manages major utilities and industries. I don't know if we're ready for that, but I think what some people are seeing is that major utilities and industries, entertainment, power, water, sewage, all of the things that are major utilities that everybody needs, and then industries are being controlled by just a few people. And is that right? I think people are beginning to question that. Not that they want to change it overnight, but they want to have a conversation about how to do that. Under socialism, hard work translates to higher compensation. Communism completely does away with financial incentives. Um, Socialists view their system as a permanent way to manage society fairly alongside a democratic system. Communists view government control as a brief necessary evil required to transition into a completely self-governing society. I guess you could almost call it anarchy, but no one ever has achieved a theoretical pure communism because the Soviet Union or Cuba, two of the best examples, never moved past the authoritarian state control phase. Meanwhile, many modern nations like Sweden and Canada have adopted social democracy, blending the two together. So I think you need to understand that when people start talking about socialism, it's not communism. It is people asking some really hard questions about, is our purely capitalistic way of life where, and I don't know what the numbers are now, but some very small percentage of individuals own 95% of the wealth in the country. It, is that, ask your heart, does that seem right? Does that seem fair? Oh, well, those people worked for their money. They got to where they were. Think about it. Just think about it. People with money make money because the system is set up to allow people with money to make money, and generally it's at the expense of other people. That hurts my heart. So, anyway,